Part 8. I took away the villain's son. Author, the great Onmyoji. Chapter 72. Yu Heng's ecstatic sound echoed throughout Huangquan Road. He's broken. His foundation is extremely strong and he has achieved the supreme level. Because of this, his breakthrough at this moment was to rise from the supreme prince to the supreme king. How could Saint Sun Yu Heng not be overjoyed? Even before entering the emperor's tomb, Yu Heng already had great expectations for the tomb. But even he didn't expect that not long after listening to the emperor's lecture, he would be able to break through the realm on the spot and evolve a supreme killing formation. In this way, his previous worries suddenly dissipated a lot. He was able to get such a shocking opportunity, and the holy son of Tianquan, who had practiced cultivation earlier than him and who was always pressing down on him, after the emperor lectured on the Dharma, was definitely getting closer and closer to the realm of great power. Although Flucking Light is a monster, it is precisely because of the monster that it will inevitably create a supreme foundation. Although the supreme foundation is strong, it is not necessarily fast to practice. Once I am allowed to sit on the position of Chief Holy Son and enjoy the resources of Chief Holy Son, it will not be that easy for Yao Guang to snatch it away. The day he doesn't become a king, the day he will be suppressed by me. So what about the heaven-defying prince? With the power of my supreme king, I can suppress him with just a flip of my hand. If he wants the position of Chief Holy Son, he can only wait until I achieve great power, and then slowly take my place. Holy Son Yu Heng is in an extremely good mood at the moment, and his mind is making crazy calculations. The opportunity he got this time is really too great. This guy is really going too far to harm others without benefiting himself. Hearing the loud sounds on the Huangquan Road, Saint Tianxian, who was in the lowest position except Yu Moliu, was suddenly awakened. She frowned slightly, and her pretty face showed a look of disgust. You must know that Yu Heng was not the only one on the Huangquan Road at this time. It was nothing more than a sudden breakthrough. But it was so arrogant and ostentatious, but it made everyone feel interrupted. Needless to say, we also know that Holy Son Yu Heng did this deliberately. Such behavior, just like Saint Tianxian said, he said that he harmed others without benefiting himself, and was extremely vicious, which showed that his character was bad. However, Saint Tianxian could only complain a few words in her heart, and then she concentrated her mind again and began to understand the content of the emperor's lectures. Earn 300,000 points for listening to the lectures given by the soul of the great emperor. Earn 300,000 points for understanding the mystery. Earn 300,000 points for visualizing ancient runes. Earn 300,000 points for visualizing ancient runes. At this time, Yang Hao naturally heard the voice of ecstasy from Holy Son Yu Heng, but he did not know Holy Son Yu Heng, and did not know Holy Son Yu Heng's malice towards him, so he only frowned slightly and felt that Yu Heng Shenzi Heng was too showy, so he realized it again. Yang Hao, who was beside the emperor's soul, naturally gained the most insights and benefits. Especially the pictures in the ancient runes opened Yang Hao's eyes. Hongmeng Great Ape Tribe. Kaishan Giant Ant Tribe. Eternal Divine Whale Clan. One after another, terrifying figures exuding ancient aura, these figures may be huge, small, strange, or unconstrained, appearing in front of Yang Hao's eyes one after another. These unheard of ancient races, even if you only have a glimpse of them, you can feel the power and terror of these races by looking at the ancient runes. There is no doubt that the pictures in these runes were all left by the eternal emperor who traveled across the universe and starry sky, witnessed them with his own eyes, and visualized them himself. The pictures in these ancient runes are naturally not that simple, and cannot be completely remembered by just looking at them. Otherwise, any practitioner has a photographic memory, and everyone can easily memorize it. He knew very well that these pictures were personally performed by the Eternal Emperor using the Supreme Method. They were the most suitable pictures for visualization. Every time he visualized these ancient runes, he could touch the sea of spiritual energy in his body and gradually map out a Tao rudimentary runes. Without any hesitation, Yang Hao tried his best to introduce these visual images into his own sea of spiritual energy. These ancient runes that hide ancient powerful races are also extremely fragile. However, after being visualized by Yang Hao for a moment, it turned into nothing and disappeared in the void before it flew even 1 meter away. Naturally, not to mention the holy sons such as Yu Heng and Tianshu who were farther away on the Huangquan road, even the holy son of Tianquan who walked the farthest and was closest to the emperor's lectures had no chance to see these rare and magical scenes. What they can see are some ancient runes that are relatively common and ordinary, but are still extremely precious to the outside world. The time was too short, even I couldn't fully visualize all the scenes in such a moment. Yang Hao is a little regretful. Although he knows that the harvest has been huge, as long as he digests these pictures one by one, he will be able to obtain extremely powerful runes. But it is a pity that there is no perfection in the world. It is precisely because it is rare and hard to find that it will be its called opportunity. It would be strange if it could be obtained easily. How is this going? Just when Yang Hao was feeling a little regretful, he took a surprised look and was immediately stunned. The broken runes floating in the void should have scattered and disappeared in all directions. But at this moment, following his thoughts, the Wei tower in his body vibrated slightly. Then, something surprising happened to him. In his eyes, the ancient runes carrying various ancient powerful races slowly dissipated in the air, and turned into a seemingly invisible line. Ruao's aura was swaying towards his body. It was as if he had been summoned and madly attracted. Endless tower. Yang Hao's eyes lit up, and after careful perception, he found that it was just as he expected. The aura of ancient runes shattered in the void was finally directly attracted to Wei Tower and drifted into it. He sank his mind into Wei Tower and found that the ancient runes that had originally dissipated were gradually flowing and merging in the Wei Tower, and combined to form mysterious runes again. Not only that, Yang Hao also discovered that the ancient runes formed in the Wei Tower were again it is not like the outside world, which is condensed and never disperses, and cannot be contemplated for a long time. Yes. Although I don't know much about Wei Tower yet. But Wei Pagoda is the ultimate imperial weapon of the Eternal Emperor, and this Emperor's remnant soul is actually a ray of the relics of the Eternal Emperor. The two must be related, and it is natural for Wei Tower to absorb these ancient runes. Yang Hao concluded, looking at the ancient runes that were constantly floating out when the Emperor's soul was teaching the Dharma. The ordinary ones were allowed to drift away. The rare ones were broken in an instant and were quietly destroyed by the Wei Tower. Collected and reshaped in the tower. Kindness. Just when Yang Hao was feeling happy in his heart, he heard the Emperor's relic looking at Yang Hao in an extremely unusual way and letting out a strange doubt. This was the first time the Emperor paused in his lecture. Although Yang Hao couldn't see clearly the Emperor's relic, the phantom of the soul, but at the first moment he felt that he was shrouded in a terrifying gaze. His figure was shaken. He was invisibly on guard. Earn 300,000 points for listening to the lectures given by the soul of the great Emperor. But at the next moment, the Emperor's soul returned to its original state and began to teach the Dharma again. This is. Yang Hao discovered something strange. Although the Emperor's remnant soul continued to teach the Dharma, it was clear that more rare and powerful ancient runes surged out and flew specifically towards his location. Do you recognize me and give me more ancient runes? Yang Hao was keenly aware that more and more powerful runes appeared. Correspondingly, there were obviously many less ordinary ancient runes floating in the distance. This was after the Emperor's soul issued an abnormality. The strange changes that occurred. It seemed, as if the Emperor's soul had done it specifically for him, deliberately letting him use the Wei Tower to collect these ancient runes. 35 ways. 72 ways. 196. Yang Hao silently counted more and more ancient runes in the Wei Tower in his body, his eyes shining brightly. Each one is a complete ancient rune. Each one allows him to visualize thousands of his own spiritual energy runes. Great Emperor, what a good man. Yang Hao sighed with emotion. At present, the Emperor's soul has given him such a rich gift just for teaching the Dharma. Next, after the Emperor's soul lectures, as far as he knows, the Emperor's soul will also give him opportunities alone. Now the Emperor's soul has given him such a rich gift. It was clear that he was recognized because he had received the inheritance from Huaya Pagoda. By then, there would probably be even greater benefits given to him, which made Yang Hao feel very good inside. Time passed. The lecture of the Emperor's relic continued for several hours. Yang Hao collected a total of 536 ancient runes, which can be said to be an extremely rich harvest. He could feel that as the lecture progressed, the shadow of the Emperor's soul began to become a little lighter, whether it was the speed at which ancient runes carrying powerful existences, or those relatively mediocre ones, fly out has also been significantly slowed down. As far as I know, the great Emperor's remaining soul's lecture will last for a day and a night. It's only been a few hours. Could it be that I've wiped it out? Just when Yang Hao was muttering, the Emperor's remaining soul suddenly stopped. The lecture is over. As soon as the words fell, all the saints and saints in the tomb, including Yang Hao, appeared together in an instant. Huanquan Road disappeared. I took away the villain's son. Author, the Great Onmyoji. Chapter 73. In the Holy Land of Eternal Life, the 7 saints and saints of this generation gathered together for the first time, and everyone glanced at each other with various eyes. The lecture by the Emperor's remaining soul is over. Too strange. This time the great Emperor's soul lecture not only started strangely, but also ended suddenly. It is completely different from when I taught the Fa. But fortunately, everyone has obviously gained a lot, and their eyes are full of satisfaction. At this moment, Yang Hao's eyes calmly glanced around the other 6 saints and saints. He had seen both Qiang and Tianxian. Tianquan, who looked like he was squinting when he opened his eyes, Tianchu, who looked like a giant, Yuheng, who looked gloomy, and Tianji, who always held a bone in his hand and chewed it. These saints and saints of his generation, he remembered them all in his heart. He was scanning the other saints, and others were also looking at Yang Hao. These saints and saints also met Yang Hao for the first time and had different reactions. Tianquan stared at Yang Hao, as if he was seeing a treasure, and was very interested. Yu Heng looked at Yang Hao with an undetectable trace of disdain in his eyes. As for the other 4 people, they were relatively normal. They just glanced at Yang Hao and then looked at the soul of the great emperor. End of lecture. The acting begins. The phantom of the emperor's soul that had become much lighter just now, as soon as he finished speaking, many mysterious auras around him rushed towards him in this mausoleum, and suddenly it became much more solid. You first. The shadow of the emperor's soul couldn't help but point to the left side of the holy son of Tianquan, who was standing in purple robes. Before the holy son of Tianquan could respond, under everyone's attention, they saw the heaven and earth change, and the holy son of Tianquan came with him. The soul of the great emperor appeared on opposite sides in the void in the distance. The great emperor's acting skills, fight with us personally. It's a rare and rare opportunity. When they are in the same realm, they do not use magic weapons or exotic treasures, but simply rely on magical powers, physical bodies, martial arts, and other means to fight. You cannot leave the void area marked by the soul of the great emperor. Once you step out, it will be considered a failure. The longer you persist, the more benefits you get. As far as I know, after so many years since the opening of the emperor's tomb. Under the emperor's performance, the one who persisted the longest was Saint Zhang from 500 years ago, who lasted for 8 hours. She was a peerless genius who was born with knowledge. She was once evenly matched with the soul of the eternal emperor, and she was extremely anxious. The holy son of Tianquan is also the most powerful monster in our immortal Holy Land in this generation. What he created in the past is the Dao immortal body that ranks first in the immortal body list. Its foundation is also the supreme foundation. I don't know how long it can last in the hands of the great emperor. The saint of Tianqian walked slowly to Yang Hao at this moment. Her beautiful eyes flickered as she looked at the battle between the holy son of Tianquan and the soul of the eternal emperor in the void. She said softly. As she spoke, her eyes seemed to be blank. She looked at Yang Hao carefully. Although Saint Tianqian praised Holy Son Tianquan in her words, she was inexplicably looking forward to Yang Hao's performance with the emperor's soul. In her opinion, Yang Hao was no better than Holy Son Tianquan. Poor. When Yang Hao heard this, he didn't pay attention to the expression of Saint Tianqian. His eyes also showed interest, and he stared at the battle in the void in the distance seriously. The time continued, and 3 hours passed in the blink of an eye. Tianquan is very strong. Yang Hao's eyes flickered. Although he has not yet reached the king level, he has climbed the Wei Tower and fought against the heaven-defying king. Compared with the lowest standard of the heaven-defying king born in the Wei Tower, this heaven-defying king Holy Sun Quan is many times stronger. If the 1000th floor of Wei Tower is guarded by Holy Sun Tianquan, he may have to spend a lot of troubles. It's a pity that the emperor is stronger. If it hadn't been for the emperor's previous lectures and my harvesting of the emperor's soul, Tianquan might have been defeated in the second hour. Yang Hao could tell at a glance that the battle between the great emperor and the Son of Heaven was about to be decided. Facing the great emperor who had also adjusted his strength to the level of a heaven-defying king, it was obvious that the great emperor had richer combat experience and more control over his power. Even more terrifying, the Holy Son of Heaven has lost. Tianquan is really powerful, maybe he can last for 4 hours. He is worthy of being the first genius of his generation. However, no one but Yang Hao could see this at this moment. The other saints, watching the fierce battle, were still fearful and extremely nervous for the Son of Heaven. Unfortunately, the facts are just as Yang Hao judged. Alas, what a pity. The great emperor is the great emperor, and I don't know how Holy Master Zhang managed to persist for a full 8 hours under such a terrifying offensive. About 2 minutes later, the Holy Son of Tianquan was seized by the emperor's relic and defeated in an instant. When the other saints saw this scene, they all felt the same and shook their heads with regret. But the next moment, their eyes turned into envy. In their sight, a milky white divine light appeared above the figure of Holy Son Tianquan and fell, bathing in the body of Holy Sun Tianquan. The great emperor's acting skills impart Tianquan's combat experience. When Holy Sun Yuheng saw this scene, his eyes showed greed and expectation. A great emperor has fought countless battles in his life. His combat experience is really too rich. Now, the soul of the great emperor is teaching Tianquan saint after Tianquan. Holy Sun accepted it. Although his combat power did not improve, the combat experience he gained was enough to make him stronger. Pity. If I had to do it again, I could last 8 hours. In full view of the public, Holy Sun Tianquan accepted the performance inheritance from the great emperor. He looked at the soul of the great emperor and said regretfully. The soul of the great emperor ignored Holy Sun Tianquan. There is only one such opportunity. Next. Then, the emperor's soul spoke again. The figure of Holy Sun Yuheng immediately disappeared and was teleported into the void. An hour and a half later, Yuheng was defeated. Next. The soul of the great emperor was as dull as a machine and spoke again. Next, it was the turn of the huge Holy Sun Tianzhu. 2 hours later, Yuheng was defeated. An hour later, Tianzhi was defeated. Except for the most powerful Holy Son of Heaven, no one of the other holy sons or saints could persist for more than 2 hours. Even Holy Sun Qiang was defeated in just half an hour. It seems that the saints of these eternal holy places are too weak to be cultivated. But this is not the case. Their opponent is the great emperor. Even if it is a remnant, it is still the great emperor. Really experiencing a lot of battles and killings in this world often begins after the foundation is built. Judging from the strength and experience of these saints, those who have been able to persist in the hands of the emperor for so long are already the best among the monsters of their generation. At this time, among all the saints, only Yang Hao was left without fighting against the emperor. I have long heard that a stunningly talented divine body emerged from our holy land of eternal life, replacing senior brother Tianquan as the #1 genius. I never expected that it would be nothing more than this: the emperor should choose his opponent's performance in order of strength. It turns out, Yao Guang, you are the weakest one. Let me guess, there should be something wrong when the foundation was laid? After all, the divine body must be very complicated. In order to rush for time and recklessly build the foundation, it is not surprising that some problems will occur. I mean, no wonder you entered the mausoleum so late. You were repairing the foundation injuries before, right? At this time, Holy Sun Qiang was still accepting the performance inheritance from the emperor, and a gloomy voice sounded. This voice naturally came from Holy Sun Yuheng. He had already discovered at this moment that the order chosen by the emperor was based on strength. Those who are weak come to fight. Even the relatively weak Tianqian and Qiang have accepted the challenge, but Yao Guang still has not been summoned by the emperor. However, Holy Sun Yuheng changed his mind and analyzed the reason, showing a look of surprise. He deliberately spoke at this time, not for no reason. Instead, he wanted to disturb Yang Hao's state of mind and make him confused when fighting the emperor. In this way, if he loses in just a few rounds, it will not only be bad taking advantage of Yao Guang's opportunity, he can also make him a laughing stock. In this way, his position as the future chief Holy Sun will be more secure. As for being hostile to Yao Guang, Holy Sun Yuheng doesn't care. There is also a person behind him. Supported by a living fossil, his background is not weak at all. The stronger and outstanding he is, the more attention he will receive. It is not the first time that Yu Heng has done such a thing by stepping on a genius who has just established a foundation. In his opinion, a genius who has not grown up, no matter how evil or defiant, is a ready-made stepping stone. The more he tramples on these geniuses, the more benefits he gets, and the more pleasure he feels in his heart. These over the years, there have been countless evil geniuses who have been suppressed and trampled on by him in various ways, with mountains of corpses. Yang Hao frowned slightly when he heard the words. The source of the voice came from Holy Sun Yuheng. Naturally, he could hear what Holy Sun Yuheng said. Malice and ridicule. Yang Hao recalled carefully for a moment. It seemed that neither the original Holy Son of Yao Guang nor himself had any interaction with Holy Son of Yuheng. Since there was no intersection, Holy Son of Yuheng made provocations. Yang Hao's character has never been a kind person. He looked at Holy Sun Yuheng, and after pondering for a few seconds, he said slowly, "Stop talking, or you will die. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I took away the villain's son." Author, the great Onmyoji. Chapter 74. After the words fell to the ground, the Tianqian saint beside Yang Hao blinked. Tianji, Qiang and other saints also stared at Yang Hao with their eyes wide open. "Stop talking or you will die." In just 8 words, Yang Hao's bad nature is fully exposed. Others ridicule and ridicule. But Yang Hao never does such boring things, nor does he talk too much nonsense. He only tells the truth. So, when he opened his mouth, he wanted to kill someone. Moreover, the person he killed was a saint from the same sect, a saint who was stronger than him in terms of strength and qualifications. In this case, don't say it was other saints. Even Holy Sun Tianquan, who seemed to have his eyes closed all the time, slowly looked at Yang Hao, and then laughed softly. "Interesting," So interesting. Such a decisive and sharp counterattack can really reflect many things. The character of this holy sun of fluctuating light is really as blazing as thunder. It explodes at the drop of a hat. It's as if there has never been a trace in his world. Compromise and forbearance. This is because they didn't know that Yang Hao directly threatened many old monsters and living fossils in the holy land of eternal life before entering the mausoleum. Otherwise, they might be more familiar with Yang Hao's style. Even the holy son of Tianquan was attracted, not to mention holy son Yu Heng, who just started to ridicule Yang Hao. He was also stunned. He likes to trample on geniuses and has a very deep understanding of these young, energetic, and arrogant little guys. He has imagined many things about Yang Hao reaction. Angry, furious, holding back or speaking harshly. But holy son Yu Heng never thought that Yang Hao would act so calm and relaxed, and then casually say such tyrannical words that he would die. Ha 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 ha. Holy son Yu Heng suddenly laughed out loud. You want to kill me? Who do you think you are? He is nothing more than a waste who failed to build a foundation and was spoiled by the Holy Lord. What are you using to kill me? He smiled wildly and unruly, but his eyes were cold and excited. Yes, he added fuel to the fire and angered Yang Hao. This is the mausoleum of the Eternal Emperor, a treasured place where the Emperor left opportunities for future generations. Those who can enter here, they are all the best evil geniuses in the holy land of eternal life. So, there is an unspoken rule here. Except for practicing martial arts with the great emperor, they are not allowed to fight at other times. Generally speaking, they all enter the mausoleum from the same sect, and they do it to get opportunities. No one will give birth to a child. The idea of doing something under the eyes of the emperor. Therefore, even many powerful men in the Holy Land will not deliberately warn before entering. But Holy Son Yu Heng is different. He is thoughtful, not brainless and arrogant. The greatest pleasure is to rely on with his own wisdom. He played tricks on those idiot geniuses who only knew how to practice. Before entering the mausoleum, he had already set his sights on Yang Hao. No one could imagine how well he knew Yang Hao. Yang Hao, he wrote down all his experiences in practice so far. In order to deal with Yang Hao, Holy Son Yu Heng analyzed Yang Hao's character and conceived many plans. Although he did not expect that Yang Hao's reaction would be more intense than he imagined. But it does not prevent him from following the trend and launching one of the plans that he has prepared for a long time. Once Yang Hao is angered by him, he will take action. Even Yang Hao will not even have a chance to practice martial arts with the emperor, and will be expelled from the emperor's tomb. Yu Heng Shengzi stared at Yang Hao with a smile on his face. Then, everyone saw it. An ancient divine sword, like a god or a devil. The supreme killing sword. Yang Hao chuckled. He looked at the face of Holy Son Yu Heng as if he were looking at a dead person. He didn't know why the other party provoked him for no reason, but this did not prevent him from killing people. He was not angered by Holy Son Yu Heng, not even a little bit. There were no emotional waves. With his wisdom, he could roughly guess why Holy Son Yu Heng wanted to provoke him. But Yang Hao didn't care. Not to mention that he had already received the Wei Tower inheritance from the Eternal Emperor. His attitude is different. Even if the Emperor really blocks it, it doesn't matter to him. He came to this world, worked hard to build the foundation, and got countless adventures. If he can't even do what he wants, what's the point of practicing? Villain, that's why he is a villain. It is because he ignores the rules and is unscrupulous. Today, he cannot kill Holy Son Yu Heng. Tomorrow, Yang Hao will guard the exit of the mausoleum and attack and kill Holy Son Yu Heng. As long as you dare to have a trace of malice or murderous intention towards me, you don't need to know the reason. Is that there is no need to worry too much. Just draw the sword and kill. Any flaws will be repaid and he will not give in. Such is his character. Therefore, Yang Hao did not even hesitate in taking action. The ancient divine sword in his hand has already brought with Wan Jun's divine power, he came out to kill. Are you a dummy? Yang Hao's eyes reflected Holy Sun Yuheng with his hands behind his back and a calm smile. He had never seen such a stupid person. He stood there and let him kill him like a wooden stake. The shadow of the sword passed by. The divine light was bright. One sword surged to blood. Extremely fast. Thousands of spiritual powers, like a gust of wind and rain, instantly penetrated the Danshan spiritual sea of Holy Sun Yuheng without any hindrance. Hiss. The eyes of the other saints and saints all widened in disbelief. No one thought, Fluct Light would really take action. This sword directly hit Holy Sun Yuheng, bursting out with endless divine glory and blood. Holy Sun Yuheng did not hide. In everyone's opinion, even if Holy Sun Yuheng had to dodge, he might not be stabbed by fluttering light so easily on the spot. Only Yang Hao's smile remained the same. Hide. If you move, the 9 heavens and 10 earths great destruction sword intent will leak out. Not moving, except for his own stupidity. That's because he has already run the time pattern and imprisoned Holy Sun Yuheng from all directions. Although with the strength of the Supreme King, Holy Sun Yuheng, if he really wanted to break through, he would be able to break his imprisonment. However, even Yang Hao did not expect that Holy Sun Yuheng would be so stupid that he could not even hide. The whole place was silent. No one expected that such a change would occur during the great emperor's martial arts performance. Great emperor. The focus of everyone's attention, the eyes of Holy Sun Yuheng showed disbelief. His neck was stiff and mechanically turned slightly to the location of the emperor's soul. He used force in the mausoleum. The voice of Holy Sun Yuheng became weaker and weaker, and he used the last cry of his life to angrily yell out the last words. Why? Why wasn't he expelled? The angry voice echoed in the mausoleum. Everyone subconsciously looked at the soul of the great emperor. At this time, Saint Tianqian suddenly remembered that there was indeed a rule against fighting in the mausoleum. No wonder Holy Sun Yuheng didn't hide. He wanted to plot against Yao Guang. However, Yao Guang's sword struck directly. What's going on? Could it be that the rules of the mausoleum changed when? Oh! At this time, the emperor's remnant responded in a rare way. But it was an ordinary and devoid of nutrients. Oh! What does your O mean? What attitude does it represent? Puff. Just when everyone looked at the emperor's soul with strange expressions, Holy Sun Yuheng spat out a mouthful of blood, and the life breath on his body became weaker and weaker. He looked at the emperor's soul in disbelief. He was not willing to give in. No. He is willing to die like this. He stepped on countless geniuses, and the era of ruling the world has not yet come, but he has already fallen in this land of opportunity with great frustration. Holy Sun Yuheng died, and his death was extremely unexpected. He died without any traces value. This is not surprising. Yang Hok has never had the habit of holding back his hands. If he says to kill you, he will definitely kill you. In addition, the ancient divine sword in his hand is not an ordinary divine object. Killing the king with one sword is still what difficulties can there be for a king who has just broken through and is defenseless. Everyone is lamenting that Holy Sun Yuheng is committing suicide. But no one realizes that even with Yang Hao's current strength, even if he can stand upright with Holy Sun Yuheng in one battle, he can be easily suppressed. Continue to perform martial arts. The emperor just glanced at the body of Holy Sun Yuheng, and then the phantom hand moved slightly, and the body of a supreme king completely turned into nothingness and disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. Idiot. The order in which the emperor chooses his martial arts opponents is not based on their strength, but the order of entering the tomb. At this time, Holy Sun Tianquan suddenly exhaled a breath, took a deep look at Yang Hao, then smiled softly and shook his head helplessly. Although Holy Sun Yuheng did not hide, he could see that it was just this sword. You can see some of the depth of Yang Hao's strength. The weakest? Has a flawed foundation? Can he kill the Supreme King in one fell swoop? Even if everyone doesn't know why the Emperor condones the killing, they all know that if Yu Heng dies, he will die. It is no longer of any value. Instead, it is a fluctuating light, worthy of their attention. This guy who is so decisive in killing that even the sect has no power to hold back, is the same as the great emperor. How long can it last? Under everyone's expectant gaze, Yang Hao's figure disappeared and appeared in the void in the distance. Great Emperor, please enlighten me. Yang Hao looked at the phantom of the emperor opposite, with a look of eagerness in his eyes. He also wanted to know, with his current strength, can he overpower the emperor? I took away the villain's son. Author, the Great Onmyoji. Chapter 75. According to the rules, the performance of the emperor's remaining soul should be performed by the other party, with the emperor taking over. But the emperor's remaining soul, I don't know if it was done deliberately or if it just seemed a bit dull. After hearing Yang Hao's words, the great emperor's relic didn't hesitate at all and took action directly against Yang Hao. Boom! The terrifying force came down. As an emperor, even if he suppressed his own strength to the same level as Yang Hao, the heaven-defying prince, he still burst out with unparalleled pressure. This was a simple punch. Boom! Suddenly, he slapped Yang Hao. It was like a storm being compressed, completely blocking the surrounding space. If this slap was true, the ordinary heaven-defying prince would die on the spot without any hesitation. Fluct Light is too arrogant. Seeing this scene, Qiang Holy Sun subconsciously shed cold sweat. Now, like Yang Hao, he is in the first level formation realm. However, he has not reached the heaven-defying level, only the invincible level. The formation realm, the invincible emperor had just punched him with a similar punch. This palm seemed ordinary, but in fact it was a thunderous opening. He felt that a disaster was coming, so he could only dodge in a hurry and use a magical power. Only to escape the fate of being killed instantly. However, in his eyes, he only saw Yang Hao standing motionless like the holy sun Yu Heng who had just been killed by him. This was not just arrogance, but he is arrogant. No one can face the emperor directly. Crunch, is he going to confront the eternal emperor head-on? The holy lady Tianji took a bite of the long bone in her hand, her beautiful eyes showing curiosity. Boom! The next moment, a dull loud noise came. Yang Hao, without dodge or evade, just as the bystanders thought, he also stretched out a palm and directly faced the emperor. A scene that shocked everyone happened. Oh! Yang Hao was not slapped away by the emperor's palm as expected. Instead, the arm of the emperor's soul was a shadow, and under the fight with Yang Hao, he took half a step back. If the prediction is correct, Fluct Light's physical body has reached its ultimate level. The taciturn giant Tianxu suddenly spoke, his eyes showing interest. Fluttering Light is a true immortal body. The great emperor is also a true immortal. But the emperor is a shadow after all. If he does not have the realm of suppression, Yao Guang will naturally be defeated. However, under the same realm, the shaking light could shake the soul of the great emperor without any hint of timidity. The mountains in front of Saint Tianxuan's chest were undulating. She recalled the scene when she saw Yang Hao fighting many powerful creatures when she was in the realm of all things. How long had passed before Yang Hao could already shake the shadow of the emperor, like a majestic figure? The mountains remained motionless. On the contrary, the emperor was pushed back half a step by this punch. Everyone here has already fought against the soul of the emperor, and no one would think that the emperor was weak. Then the fact can only be that Yang Hao's physical body is too powerful. Such exquisite power control. Yang Hao at this moment is different from the shock of the bystanders, but he is also in a state of surprise. The soul of the emperor only took half a step back. This was beyond his expectation. No one knows better than him what his physical body has at this moment. How terrifying! His divine body is not the true immortal divine body that everyone thinks. It is the divine body of reincarnation. This divine body of his is made up of 3 divine bodies, one of which is extremely powerful and can be called the invincible divine body of the physical body. Dragon divine body. This innate ability makes his physical body as powerful as the ancient holy dragon. What's more, he also practiced the 9 nether prison suppression technique. When he listened to the great emperor's lecture before, he got the opportunity to give it, and he has gone one step further. The suppression and control of the billions of demons in the body is much higher. This means that he can squeeze the power of his body even more crazily. Not to mention that the suppression state of the emperor's remnants in front of him is just the first level of the formation state. Heaven. In Yang Hao's opinion, even if the emperor's remnant soul transfers its realm to the 9th level of the formation realm or even the formation realm, his physical body will be suppressed by him. The gap between the two is like a giant dragon and an ant. However, with such a huge advantage, Yang Hao was shocked to find that he had only overtaken the emperor by half a step. After fighting against the emperor, Yang Hao realized how terrifying the control of power by the real strongest man was. War. In the same situation, I am the king. Although he was shocked in his heart, Yang Hao still did not stop. Instead, his eyes were full of fighting spirit. He had built a foundation of transcendence and had built up invincible confidence in his heart. Facing the emperor who took half a step back, Yang Hao did not hesitate at all, and immediately took advantage of the victory to pursue and kill the soul of the great emperor. What a loud tone! There are so many unparalleled geniuses in the world. Even the great emperor in the past did not dare to be so confident before he became enlightened. Yao Guang was extremely arrogant. Tianxia spoke slowly, his tone a little heavy. But he has a divine body, crunch, it makes sense to resist attacks as easily as he is invincible in the same situation. On the other hand, Saint Tianji's beautiful eyes glowed with divine light. She stared at Yang Hao fighting with the great emperor, and her mind was completely attracted. They had all fought against the great emperor before, but more often it was the great emperor who took action, and they accepted the move. Why is it called the great emperor's performance? Method. The emperor demonstrated the fighting method for them and let them understand it. But who could have thought that the Holy Son of Light would be so arrogant? It was just in the first fight that he took advantage of it and dared to take the initiative and shout the slogan of being king when you are from the same place is really arrogant. Boom. Snapped. Boom. Explosions kept coming from the void. The Emperor's relic and Yang Hao fought wildly. One person and one soul, they did not use any magical powers, Taoist patterns, or other means, but fought with strong physical bodies in an extremely tacit understanding. The terrifying speed was dazzling, and the figures of the two were dancing like a whirlwind. Fluct light is pressing down on the emperor. Sage Qiang swallowed subconsciously. He discovered that Yang Hao not only suppressed the emperor's soul half a step at the beginning, but he kept suppressing the emperor. His divine body is too strong. The great emperor suppressed the realm and hid with fluttering light, which was a huge disadvantage. At this time, the holy son of Tianquan who had been silent finally spoke slowly. Although Yao Guang is far inferior to the emperor in terms of combat experience, power control, and tactics, Yao Guang's physical body is extremely strong. No matter how the emperor attacks Yao Guang doesn't need to be ignored. He pushes him all the way and is as ferocious as a giant dragon. The divine body is so wonderful. The holy son of Tianquan looked at Yang Hao's figure, and tried to open his squinted eyes, showing a look of longing. Everyone was silent when they heard the words of the holy son of Tianquan. They knew that there was nothing in the holy son of Tianquan's analysis wrong. Combat experience, power control, tactics, no matter what aspect, Fluct Light is not as good as the Emperor's relic. But facing a giant dragon, no matter how you attack, you can't break through his defense. Instead, the opponent punches you. If you go down, I will beat you into a pulp. There is no way to beat you. Everyone realized that maybe the arrogant words of the Holy Sun Yaoguang just now were not exaggerated. This means that the one who is hostile to him is the great emperor. If it was someone else who had already been beaten up by Yang Hao? This guy is clearly a monster. Speaking of which, why doesn't the emperor use magical powers? Sage Qiang looked at Yang Hao suppressing the emperor and said with horror in his heart. With Qiang's intelligence, he naturally understood that the two of them were playing fair. If the emperor used his magical power, he would have already lost the game. After all, when everyone faces the great emperor, what they consider is how long they can sustain it. Who would have thought that Fluctlight would push the great emperor to this point? It looks like, in less than an hour, crunch, the emperor will lose. The holy maiden of Tianji is chewing the long bones all the time. She said vaguely while eating. The whole place was silent. The great emperor is going to lose. Seeing the great emperor being suppressed by Fluffy Light so directly, I couldn't help it. People don't believe it. The emperor used his magical power. At this moment, Saint Tianqian said. In their eyes, above the void, thousands of feet of thunder annihilated and came down, and the endless remaining ice sealed everything. The two most famous supreme magical powers of the Eternal Emperor. 10,000 Thunder Forbidden Area. Ice Extinction. One is for killing, the other is for suppressing. The Eternal Emperor possesses a true immortal body, and he has extremely high attainments in magical powers. With the supreme magical powers appearing in prince-level battles, Yao Guang basically has no chance of winning. The Holy Lord was defeated by one of these magical powers back then. With eyes unblinking, all the saints and saints stared carefully. At this moment, they had no time to pay attention to the Emperor's first use of magical powers. They were defeated by Yao Guang. The two terrifying supreme magical powers belonging to the Eternal Emperor were also their first. Once met. Pity. If this is the case, the fluctuating light actually lasts less than an hour. At this time, the Holy Son of Tianquan spoke again. Everyone understood that when the two supreme magical powers fell, even if the body was as strong as the fluctuating light, they would be suppressed in an instant. Being suppressed naturally meant losing. At this time, someone with talent wake up. So what if the fluctuating light overwhelms the Emperor? He has been supported by the Emperor for less than an hour, and the reward he may receive in the end will not be too much. No wonder the Holy Son of Tianquan sighs. I took away the villain's son. Author, the Great Onmyoji. Chapter 76. Yang Hao looked up and saw the sky filled with thunder and endless icy cold air coming from below. With just a moment's awareness, you can feel the terrifying aura within it. Pity. Just at the level of a prince. It's not enough. No one would have thought that Yang Hao has 81 divine powers in his body, and the weakest ones are the supreme magical powers. He is too familiar with the supreme magical powers. A smile gently outlines. Great moving power. One of the divine palaces in his body surged suddenly, and then his figure seemed to tear apart the land of void and disappeared without a trace. In this way, the two supreme beings that were bound to hit him were enveloped by the original soul of the Emperor. The magical power has lost its target. The great teleportation magical power is the supreme magical power. It was upgraded from the teleportation magical power he obtained after igniting it. Yang Hao instantly appeared in another void. 9 heavens and 10 earths destroyed the sword's intention. A terrifying sword intention descended from the sky, carrying the aura of destruction, and fell directly on the soul of the great emperor. They were also two magical powers. One supreme magical power, and the other supreme magical power. They came out in an instant, and in turn killed the great emperor is shrouded in everything. Even if the great emperor notices it, so what? After all, it is only at the level of the first level of the array. Boom. The terrifying aura disappeared in a flash. Yang Hao's 9 heavens and 10 earths great destruction sword intent instantly dissipated like smoke. Great strength. The emperor's relic violated the rules. Seeing this scene, Holy Sun Tianquan was shocked. Everything happened too fast just now. Not long before he made his judgment, Yang Hao had already turned the tables, and in turn used his magical power to suppress the emperor. That sword intent, what kind of magical power is it? Divine light burst out from the eyes of the Holy Son of Heaven. He possesses a Dao immortal body, and his understanding is second only to the true immortal body. His mind is constantly trying to figure out the origin of the magical power that Yang Hao just displayed. A supreme magical power. After all, it is the Dao immortal body. In just a blink of an eye, he calculated the power level of fluctuating light's 9 heavens and 10 earths great destruction sword intent. Because of this, he was extremely shocked. When they were still sighing that the eternal emperor had when he was a true immortal body, he subconsciously forgot that Yao Guang's divine body was also a true immortal body. They are also unparalleled divine bodies with the ultimate understanding and talent, so how could Yao Guang's magical power be inferior? Not only is it not inferior, but it is also better than immortality. The emperor's magical powers are even higher. Although it is not necessarily true that among the other 7 magical powers of the eternal emperor, there is no supreme level, but witnessing the emergence of the supreme magical powers this time still made the eyes of the Holy Son of Heaven shine brightly. The soul of the great emperor has displayed strength beyond the rules, so this performance. In less than an hour, the emperor was defeated. The beautiful eyes of Saint Tianqian looked deeply at Yang Hao, her eyes shining. Her previous judgment was correct. Yao Guang is no longer just like Tianquan, but completely surpassed. He has risen. In the future, the eternal Holy Land will usher in the era of fluctuating light. Even the most outstanding Holy Son of Tianquan of this generation cannot be compared with Yang Hao. This is no longer a record-breaking, but subversion. Yang Hao's complete subversion, it has exceeded people's understanding. The great emperor can actually be defeated. Since the opening of the tomb of the eternal emperor, who has thought about it? Who dares to think about it? I want to know now, what kind of reward Fluctlight will get. Qiang Holy Son murmured. He remembered that he had only lasted for half an hour in the hands of the emperor's remnant, but the benefits he received later were beyond his imagination, which was enough to make his strength qualitatively change and jump into the world. A new level. Now, Yao Guang, a pervert, has directly defeated the emperor's soul. What can he gain? No one dares to imagine. 5 pairs of eyes, staring at Yang Hao's figure intently. In the void at this moment, with the great emperor displaying strength beyond the first level of the array realm, the dust has settled. What will you get? Yang Hao was also very curious at this time. He stood quietly, waiting for the reward from the mausoleum to arrive. Terrifying afterlife. It is beyond my imagination. No wonder I can obtain the inheritance of this emperor. This trace of my remaining soul is given to you. At this moment, a voice that only he could hear came from Yang Hao's ears. Then, under his shocked eyes, the soul of the emperor bursting out with great strength on the opposite side walked towards him slowly. While walking, the figure of the emperor's relic became smaller and smaller. In the end, Yang Hao seemed to see a familiar scene. This emperor's relic seemed to have turned into the ancient runes he had collected using the Wei Tower before, and sank directly into his body entered the Wei Tower. Did you take an old man with you? When Yang Hao saw this scene, his expression suddenly became a little weird. Of course, he didn't bring an old man with him. The emperor's remnant soul in his body was covered by a layer of divine light when he stepped into the Wei Tower. Many thoughts about the function of this great emperor's relic poured into his mind. This is a completely unconscious great emperor's relic. But, the great emperor's relic is the great emperor's relic after all. This one enters Yang Hao's body without limit. Although the Emperor's relic in the tower did not show the terrifying aura of the Emperor's relic when he was teaching the Dharma before. But the Emperor's relic also possesses the top strength of the great power level and the combat experience of the eternal great power level. This means that Yang Hao you can summon the Emperor's ghost at any time and use it as his thug. The true function of the Emperor's soul is not like this. Its most valuable function is the vast sea of combat experience. Now I have created the supreme foundation of transcendence, and I carry the ultimate imperial weapon with me. There is no lack of potential, no lack of combat power, and no lack of various treasures. What is really lacking is combat experience. In my previous battle with this great Emperor's remnant, if it weren't for the rules, I could only fight in this void. A strong man with the experience of the great Emperor would definitely be able to use countless tactics to put me in danger. With this great Emperor's soul in the Wei Tower, I can compete and fight with this great Emperor's soul anytime, anywhere. A great Emperor serves as a sparring partner. From princes to kings to powerful men, they can all change their corresponding strength at any time. Yang Hao's eyes flickered, knowing that he had gained a lot this time. Just this piece of the Emperor's relic made him feel like he had obtained a treasure. However, there are also shortcomings. Yang Hao smacked his lips and said with some regret, this Emperor's remnant soul is a veritable gold-swallowing beast. He looked at the Emperor's soul cross-legged in the Wei Tower. The Emperor's soul was filled with pure white divine light. These white divine lights represented the greater spiritual power of the Emperor's soul. Yang Hao, who had absorbed a lot of information, but he knew that once the Emperor's relic took action, it would begin to consume spiritual power. Because the Emperor's relic is extremely unique, unless the Eternal Emperor personally instills spiritual power, if you want to use this Emperor's relic for a long time, you need to prepare a large amount of elixirs and immortal stones to supplement his pure spiritual power. Yang Hao is not surprised. After consuming energy, he needs to recover and replenish it. This is natural. But this is not a big problem for him. He is not one of those protagonists who comes from a poor background, but sits on endless resources. The villain Holy Sun. As long as he moves his lips, countless people will run for him and send a steady stream of resources to him. When Yang Hao sighed, the other holy sons and saints had already arrived. They were stunned. They didn't know that Yang Hao had obtained a great Emperor's relic. In their eyes, what they saw was that after the defeat, the great Emperor's relic transformed into an ancient rune and entered Yang Hao's body. What did he gain from the fluct light? How could the Emperor's remnant soul turn into ancient runes? He must have received a shocking opportunity. A group of saints and saints looked at Yang Hao's figure and guessed one after another. They knew that this must involve the secret left by the Emperor. It was impossible to ask Yang Hao's mouth. Everything could only be guessed. It's over, Yao Guang defeated the great Emperor, and now that all the remaining souls have disappeared, shouldn't the fate-giving link be cancelled? At this time, Holy Sun Qiang suddenly seemed to remember something, and suddenly murmured to himself. The great Emperor's remaining soul lectured on the Dharma. He said at the beginning that there are 3 opportunities in total. The teaching is the first one, and the performance is the second one. The third opportunity is the most anticipated. Because the first 2 require oneself to realize and fight. But the third opportunity is simply called a gift. The Emperor directly gave an opportunity. But now, the soul of the great Emperor was suppressed by the fluctuating light, and even turned directly into ancient runes and entered Yang Hao's body. What should I do with the third opportunity? Hearing what Holy Sun Qiang said, the other holy sons and saints, the woman also reacted and looked at the Yao Guang in the distance with a complicated expression. You can't blame the Yao Guang for suppressing the Emperor and preventing them from getting the opportunity, right? This suppression of the Emperor is also something that has never happened in history. Just when all the saints and saints are struggling. End of performance. Next, I will give each of you an opportunity. Whether you can get it or not depends on your own creation. At this time, another indifferent voice suddenly sounded. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I took away the villain's son. Author, the great Onmyoji. Chapter 77. There are so many remnants of the great emperor. Hearing the sound echoing in the void, another great emperor's relic appeared, Yang Hao muttered. Although another great emperor's relic appeared, Yang Hao and others could see at a glance that this great emperor's relic was different from the previous one. The relic that he took into the Wei Tower was obviously much weaker. Not only the aura, but also the shadow was very light. Obviously, no matter how many remnants of the emperor there are still strong and weak ones. Very good. The opportunity is still there. But obviously, as long as the soul of the great emperor is still there, everyone will breathe a sigh of relief, which means that their opportunity has not been lost because of Yao Guang's shocking victory over the great emperor. Opportunity, enlightenment. The remnant soul of the emperor who reappeared was even more dull. He ignored everyone's reaction and spoke again. Then, Yang Hao's eyes blurred, and his figure appeared in other places as if he had been exerted the magical power of teleportation. Yang Hao looking around, no other figures were found. Directly in front, a figure slowly appeared. Different from the previous lectures and performances, this third gift of fate isolated everyone and granted it alone. Is this the true face of the eternal emperor? Yang Hao looked at the figure that appeared in front of him and found that the face of this figure was no longer as empty as before, but gradually solidified, forming the appearance of a middle-aged scribe with slender beard and hair. Oh! When the middle-aged scribe saw Yang Hao, he seemed not to recognize him. He looked up and down at Yang Hao with great curiosity. Is this the little guy who has inherited my heritage? What kind of divine body is this? Huh? There are actually 81 divine palaces? Strange, so strange. Not bad. No wonder he was able to break through the Wei Tower. The middle-aged scribe in front of him took a thorough look at Yang Hao's whole body with just one glance, which shocked Yang Hao. I have seen the emperor. He responded, neither humble nor haughty. Since you are my descendant, you don't need to be so polite. Being able to come here means that you have received the inheritance I left behind. I don't like to talk nonsense, I'll tell you directly. Seeing me means that you have my approval. I will give you 3 opportunities. The middle-aged scribe said with a smile. Although his tone was polite, it made Yang Hao feel a sense of majesty. Thank you, Emperor. When Yang Hao heard this, he immediately smiled. He didn't expect that after all the time he had collected the Eternal Emperor's wool, the Emperor would actually give him 3 opportunities, which was 3 times more than other saints and saints. Not only that, Yang Hao, I believe that these 3 opportunities are definitely not simple. The Eternal Emperor is really a good person. First opportunity. Well, let me give you this. The Yongsheng Emperor pondered for a moment, but then he shot out a mysterious grey divine light. Then, it penetrated into Yang Hao's body. This is. Yang Hao sensed that grey divine light entering his body, and instantly entered the Wei Tower. But at the same time, his breath also became ethereal. A little secret. Your 81 temples are too dazzling. The sage is a bit off, so that's it? If we meet the Quasi-Emperor, I will definitely capture you and study you. This little secret technique, unless the strength far exceeds mine, even the Emperor cannot see through it. The Yongsheng Emperor chuckled and explained. When Yang Hao heard the words, he understood immediately. He did not expect that his reincarnation body would be so eye-catching in the eyes of the real Emperor. This opportunity given to him by the Yongsheng Emperor was extremely useful to him. The second chance comes, I'll give you the road to hell. But with your current strength, you can't take it away. When you become a powerful person, you can activate the remnant soul and enter the tomb to take it away. The Eternal Emperor thought for a while and then said, Huangquan Road. Yang Hao was startled. He suddenly remembered the road filled with the terrible underworld atmosphere when he entered the Emperor's tomb. He did not expect that the Eternal Emperor would give this thing to him. Although he needed to become a powerful person before he could take it away, Yang Hao naturally didn't think so. Meaning, it was a sudden drop from heaven, and he didn't have much concern for gain or loss. The third opportunity is, I'll give you that thing. The Eternal Emperor thought for a while, and then shot out a colorful light again, which fell into the Wei Tower in Yang Hao's body. When I became a king in the past, I forged a killing formation. It does have some meaning, and it fits you well. You can go look for it. I don't think it will inspire you. It should have been left behind on the ancient battlefield. If you enter on your own, this 9 links divine line will lead you to find the formation I. The Eternal Emperor sensed it for a moment and then said, but you'd better go earlier. According to my perception, someone has entered the realm of the Emperor's formation. If you arrive a little late and are snatched away, then I won't blame you. Hearing the words of the Eternal Emperor, Yang Hao's heart moved. The ancient battlefield. A killing formation formed by the great Emperor. What a coincidence. Yang Hao murmured to himself. Calculating the time, the 1-year period when the Holy Lady Yalan issued a declaration of war to him was getting closer and closer. The Holy Lady Yalan must still be on the ancient battlefield at this moment, so far away the day of return should not be far away. This woman is blessed with the fate of being a heroine. If nothing unexpected happens. What the Eternal Emperor said was most likely that she entered the realm of the Eternal Emperor's formation. If I abide by the agreement honestly and wait for 1 year to come, will the Yalan Saintess use the Eternal Emperor's killing array to blind me in the face? The more Yang Hao thought about it, the more he felt that this routine was too familiar and too possible. Fortunately, I'm not a stickler for rules, Yang Hao muttered in his heart. He has decided. This time when he walks out of the Emperor's tomb, no matter what happens, he will immediately go to the supreme battlefield and suppress that woman. Otherwise, if she is allowed to grow up, who will get the sage inheritance, the fiancé who was taken in by the living fossil as his direct disciple, plus the guy whose aunt dug up the bones of the supreme immortal, and now has nowhere to go. If these people all rise up one by one. No, they don't want to rise. Yang Hao comforted himself silently, whoever comes forward will be killed. In this way, the world will be at peace. With his current potential and strength, Yang Hao feels that only those monsters with the protagonist's luck can threaten him. 3 opportunities have been given to you, and what happens next depends on your fate. At this time, the voice of the Yongsheng Emperor came. He looked at Yang Hao with admiration in his eyes. Yang Hao immediately thanked him politely and showed mercy. He had gained a lot in the Emperor's tomb, so he was naturally grateful to the Yongsheng Emperor. Go ahead. The Eternal Emperor smiled and didn't say anything more to Yang Hao. In fact, he couldn't say anything more. Yang Hao had long seen that although the Eternal Emperor in front of him seemed to be the most agile, in fact, the look in his eyes was still there. Still a bit sluggish. Everything seems to have been set up a long time ago. Did the Eternal Emperor really fall, or did he lie dormant? Yang Hao thought for a while and did not think about it further. There are many speculations about whether the Yongsheng Emperor has fallen. Many people tend to think that the Yongsheng Emperor has completely fallen, but some people firmly believe that the Emperor cannot die lightly. However, the original Holy Son of Light was not very interested in these, and Yang Hao naturally didn't know much. He only knew that in this era, no great emperor was born, and it seemed that they had already traveled in the starry sky. If there really is an emperor, he will live forever. The Holy Land has existed for endless years, and one of the 5 emperors will naturally be born. As Yang Hao thought, his figure was pulled by the power of the mausoleum and disappeared again as if it had been moved. The scene in front of him suddenly changed, and Yang Hao appeared in the field. Among verdant woodlands. Lotus grows every step of the way. OMG. The Holy Son of Heaven must have had a great opportunity in the tomb of the great emperor, and he actually attracted the vision of a lotus growing step by step, and achieved great power. It seems that this time the Holy Son of Tianquan will gain the most in the emperor's tomb, which really scares others. Faintly the voices of strong men came from. Lotus growing every step of the way. Has the power of heaven become mighty? Yang Hao listened carefully to the noise and looked up. Between the sky and the earth, pink and white lotus flowers were falling. In the center of his sight, a figure in purple robes was walking forward step by step. This purple, with every step the figure in the robe took, his aura became stronger, and the pink and white lotus flowers under his feet also bloomed with his steps. For a time, the spiritual energy of this world was extremely rich. In Yang Hao's eyes, it was just a short period of time. In the past few moments, the aura of this figure suddenly became as powerful as a god and demon. This purple-robed figure is naturally the Holy Son of Tianquan. You don't need to think too much to know that this Holy Son of Tianquan is in the final moment. Given a great opportunity, he actually stepped through half a step of great power in one leap, directly manifesting the vision of a lotus growing step by step, achieving great power. The great age is coming, and evildoers will appear in large numbers. Yang Hao looked at the scene and stood with a faint smile. He was watching from the sidelines, as if he had already achieved great power and was overlooking the promotion of the Holy Son of Heaven. I took away the villain's son. Author, the great Onmyoji. Chapter 78. Ever since Yang Hao saw the revival of the world's ancient trees through time retrieval, he knew that a great age was coming. The Holy Land of Eternal Life is one of the oldest and most powerful holy lands. If he hadn't been born in this generation, the most outstanding evildoer would have been the Holy Son of Heaven, who condensed the immortal body number 1 on the immortal body list, the Dao immortal body. Although there was no special interaction between the two, Yang Hao could still sense the powerful aura of the Holy Son of Heaven. Now, the Holy Son of Tianquan walked out of the mausoleum, directly revealed the vision of a lotus growing step by step, and advanced to become a powerful person. There is really nothing to marvel at. He can have a chance, and others can naturally have a chance too. In this era, when the great age is approaching, there are too many evil geniuses like him and the Holy Son of Tianquan, who are advancing rapidly in every corner of the world and become shocking geniuses. Tianquan has become a powerful person today, leaving the position of the Son of God, giving him a title, and conferring the title of Elder of the Holy Land. At this time, a calm voice spoke. The Holy Lord came slowly, walking down the clouds, and the voice resounded throughout the world. She is the Holy Lord of the Eternal Holy Land, and it is natural for her to come forward to canonize the Holy Son of Tianquan at this moment. Good. Mingzun, yes. The sun and the moon shine together, a light that has never been seen in the ages, and the power of heaven is worthy of it. Voices came one after another, agreeing with the Holy Lord's decision. The owners of these voices are almost all living fossils and old monsters in the Holy Land. Originally, even if the emperor's tomb was opened, it would not attract them. But because Yang Hao broke through the Wei Tower and caused the birth of the Supreme Emperor's soldiers, these living fossils and old monsters did not continue to hide for the time being, but focused their attention on the emperor's tomb. They all wanted to see what Yang Hao, a monster, could gain from the mausoleum. I never imagined that I would see Tianquan growing a lotus step by step and achieving great power. Thank you, Holy Lord. At this moment, Tianquan, after achieving great power, has left the position of the Holy Son of this generation and is titled Mingzun. He looked at the Holy Lord and held his hands in thanks from a distance. No need to be too polite, my holy land has gained another heaven-defying power, I would like to congratulate you today. The Holy Lord heard the words and said lightly, but his eyes did not look at Mingzun, but kept wandering around the exit of the great emperor's tomb. When she saw Yang Hao watching with a confident smile, she couldn't help but outline the corner of her mouth, smile charmingly. This little guy seems to have gained no less than Tianquan this time. The Holy Lord knows Yang Hao very well, and she knows that every time she sees Yang Hao's calm smile, she has often gained a lot at this moment. Everyone is witnessing the power of heaven to achieve great power, thinking that he must be in the tomb of the great emperor. Tianquan takes the lead, overpowering the other sons and becoming the biggest winner. This is natural. After all, Yu Heng is not as good as Tianquan, Tianchu lacks agility, and Tianji's foundation is not good. As for the sons and saints headed by Yao Guang and others female, her cultivation level is too low. Even though she is extremely talented and evil, she is still far away from the holy son of Tianquan and needs time to catch up. But only the Holy Lord believes in Yang Hao. Only she knows this little boy. Guys always work wonders. Mingzun, how many hours did you last for this performance of the Emperor's soul? Suddenly, an old monster asked. They all knew what kind of opportunities there were in the Emperor's tomb. Whether it was teaching or gifting, there was no deliberate measurement standard. But the result of performing the magic with the Emperor's soul was this is the result that needs to be recorded every time after the great Emperor's tomb is closed. Ashamed, I only lasted 4 hours. When Tianquan heard this, his eyes flickered, as if he remembered the unforgettable scene before, and he responded with some regret. 4 hours? Not bad. No wonder your gains are so great. The old monster nodded, and the others looked at Mingzun with approval. Being able to persist for 4 hours in the great emperor's performance can be regarded as the most outstanding monster among these generations of saints and saints. Where is the holy son of fluctuating light? Another old monster suddenly looked at Yang Hao, who was already standing at the exit of the mausoleum, and asked. Not only this old monster, but also more living fossils also showed curious expressions. They did not leave because they wanted to know what Yang Hao got. What kind of opportunities can monsters inherited from the great emperor get in the tomb of the great emperor, which is also one of the great emperor's inheritances? An hour. Mingzun had a weird expression on his face when he heard this. He looked at the old monster, and then slowly spoke, his words half hidden, with a hint of bad taste. Only an hour. Alas, you are too young after all. Many old monsters who had high expectations for Yang Hao could not hide their disappointment when they heard this. For an hour, this was the level of the most ordinary saint son and saint. Such an answer did not surprise them. However, they are all mature people and have seen countless people. If you think about it carefully, you will understand. Who hasn't been young and energetic? Having just received the inheritance from the great emperor, he must be very proud of himself. It is normal for his horse to stumble due to carelessness. That's fine, it just teaches him a lesson and sharpens his temper, an old monster said slowly. At this time, the Holy Lord heard the words, but his eyebrows wrinkled slightly. Looking at Yang Hao's smiling expression as always, he clearly felt that something was wrong. These old monsters don't understand, and she doesn't understand? With this little, how could this guy's strength only last for an hour when the emperor was performing the magic? Ancestor. It's not that the fluctuating light only lasted for an hour. It was the emperor who only lasted for an hour under Yao Guang's hand. At this time, Saint Tianqian couldn't stand it anymore. He looked at Yang Hao with a smile on his face and Mingzun in Yun Danfengking, knowing that if these two people didn't point it out, these old monsters would really take them seriously. Now she had a vague admiration for Yang Hao's hung, so naturally she couldn't help but say. What? The emperor only lasted an hour under Yao Guang. The words of Saint Tianqian made all the old monsters stunned. They seemed to have heard a fantasy. Did this little girl say something wrong? What kind of person is the emperor? Even if it is just a relic, it is the real emperor. Differentiate. When the results come to your mouth, How come it seems that the emperor is the one who accepted the assessment? Tianqian didn't lie, the emperor did only last in Yao Guang's hands for an hour. If Yao Guang had used his magical power in advance, the emperor might not have been able to hold on for even half an hour. At this time, Holy Sun Qiang also muttered, his tone still a little shocked. He will never forget the terrifying magical power that Yao Guang used when he was performing magic with the emperor. If he had used it earlier, the emperor might not have been able to hold on for half an hour. After hearing the words of Holy Sun Qiang, many old monsters were stunned. Naturally they don't want to believe it. But looking at the other saints and saints who walked out together, and then looking at Mingzun who nodded slightly in recognition. One person can lie, but it's not like all the saints and saints in the Holy Land are lying, right? This also includes Mingzun, who has just achieved great power. Many old monsters know this monster's extremely proud character. If there is a lie, there is no need for them to doubt it. Mingzun will be the first to deny it. Let me take a moment. An old monster was shocked. He had seen the emperor with his own eyes, so he was even more shocked at this moment. At this time, some people had already woken up. I'm afraid that this trip to the emperor's tomb, Fluchtlight's harvest will not be smaller than Mingzun. How could he not gain huge gains if he could suppress the great emperor in his performance? This little guy really works hard to create miracles and prevent others from surviving. Only the Holy Master, after being shocked, looked at Yang Hao's tall and calm figure, and his smile became more moving. Yang Hao has never let him down. Just as the whole place fell into silence, many old monsters were constantly trying to accept the reality. When? Kindness. An old woman frowned and asked, Mingzun, do you know why Yu Heng hasn't walked out of the mausoleum yet? The entrance to the mausoleum is closed now. Even if Yu Heng gets a great opportunity, he should walk out at this moment. But now, all the saints and saints are present, except Yu Heng is missing. Yu Heng. When Mingzun heard this, he also laughed inexplicably at this moment. He had seen this old woman before and knew that she was the ancestor behind Yu Heng. But Mingzun didn't care. He also had a great background. Seeing him, the old woman looked a little impatient and said casually, dead. Dead. As Mingzun finished speaking, the old woman's aging body suddenly exuded murderous intent. Chun'er is dead. The tomb of the great emperor is a place of chance gifts left by the great emperor. It is absolutely safe and no one has ever died in it. How could Chun'er die? The old woman's murderous intention filled the air, and she rushed towards all the saints and saints. Sensing the old woman's murderous intention, except for Yang Hao, all the saints and saints' expressions changed greatly, and they sweated like rain. They instinctively looked at Yang Hao. What kind of cultivation level did the old woman have? In just one glance, her eyes looked at Yang Hao with an extremely cold look. Does it have something to do with you? Yang Hao was enveloped by the terrifying energy, and the Wei tower in his body automatically emitted magic, eliminating this terrible pressure. If you offend me, just kill me. Do you have any opinion? Yang Hao looked at the old woman who was full of terror, but he didn't have any fear and was extremely calm. I took away the villain's son. Author, the Great Onmyoji. Chapter 79. Yu Heng was killed by you. The old woman looked at Yang Hao. She originally thought that Yang Hao had something to do with Yu Heng's fall. But she didn't expect that Yu Heng would fall like this. Moreover, Yang Hao didn't even mean to cover up, and just said admitted. If I offend you, I will be killed. Then if I offend you, how about you kill me too? The old woman stared at Yang Hao and said sternly. Yu Heng is one of her most beloved descendants. She didn't see Yu Heng walking out just now. When she reached the state of the old woman, she had already had a premonition. But she unexpectedly, Yao Guang admitted directly without even a trace of cover-up or any unnecessary explanation. Her anger suddenly rose. She washed away the terrifying aura and moved towards Yang Hao involuntarily. Ancestor Bingfeng, what do you want to do? Stop. Don't be impulsive. The old monsters who were still immersed in the suppression of the great emperor just now did not expect that the situation suddenly changed. Although the old woman known as the Bingfeng ancestor acted extremely hastily, there were many people present who were more powerful than the Bingfeng ancestor. Not to mention the potential that Yang Hao has shown now, even if he has the ultimate imperial weapon in his hand, he is still the object of protection by many powerful people. What's more, the moment Yang Hao opened his mouth, the Holy Master had already stood in front of Yang Hao calmly. Therefore, even though the Ice Phoenix Patriarch was furious and extremely powerful, this sudden attack did not cause any harm to Yang Hao. I want an explanation. Disciples of the Holy Land are not allowed to kill each other. Ancestor Bingfeng said in a cold voice. She knew that nothing could be done to Yang Hao today. Following the words of Ancestor Bingfeng, everyone's eyes focused on Yang Hao. After all, although they would protect Yang Hao without any reason, but people are curious. They also want to know the ins and outs. The death of a holy son is not a small matter for the Holy Land. Even at such an old age, he is still so angry. Yang Hao narrowed his eyes. He didn't expect the old woman's reaction to be so violent. But he didn't care. Instead, he continued indifferently, Yu Heng is seeking death. I can't stop him, right? He was too lazy to say more, and just waved his hand. Suddenly, the sea of spiritual energy was mobilized, and the spiritual energy formed a picture. I have long heard that a stunningly talented divine body has emerged from my eternal Holy Land. I never expected it, but that's all. You want to kill me? Who do you think you are? He is nothing more than a waste who failed to build a foundation and was spoiled by the Holy Lord. What are you using to kill me? The image of Holy Son Yu Heng, who was full of yin and yang, and ridiculed again and again, suddenly appeared. Seeing this scene, many old monsters frowned subconsciously. Yao Guang's talent and potential now displayed, not to mention Yu Heng, even Ming Zun, it can't be compared with it. This holy son of Yu Heng caused trouble for no reason. It was just before Yao Guang was about to perform the emperor's martial arts performance. These old monsters could see Yu Heng's little thoughts with just one glance. Disturbing Yao Guang's state of mind, making her mentally unstable when performing martial arts with the emperor. This angered Yao Guang and violated the rules, with the intention of causing Yao Guang to be expelled from the mausoleum. Yu Heng, is he trying to compete for the position of chief saint? An old monster said faintly. It is said that Holy Son Yu Heng likes to trample geniuses the most, and many evildoers have been suppressed by him over the years, another elder said in a neutral tone. However, the temper of Holy Son Yao Guang was still too irritable, and he actually took action directly. You can't say that. If I were being plotted like this, I would do it on the spot. Many old monsters looked at the scenes released by Yang Hao and expressed their opinions. The vast majority are on Yang Hao's side. With Yang Hao's potential and the inheritance of the Supreme Emperor's weapons, even if Yang Hao is the unreasonable party today, many old monsters will choose to protect Yang Hao. Very simple reason. The dead sun is no longer the sun. Naturally, it has no value. What's more, judging from the scenes shown by Yang Hao is at best grumpy and impulsive. In the eyes of these old monsters, these are not big problems. Who hasn't had a time when they were young and full of energy? After experiencing too much in the future, your character will naturally be polished. Compared with the value displayed by fluctuating light, Yu Heng cannot compare even if he is alive, let alone now that he is dead. Even so, it would not kill Yu Heng. You little devil is really lawless. After the scene ended, Ancestor Bingfeng was silent for a while, still looking at Yang Hao with vicious eyes. Some people become more rational as they get older. Some people become more paranoid as they get older. Ancestor Bingfeng is obviously the latter. Blind. Yang Hao didn't expect that after he played the scene in the tomb, this old witch would still continue to mess around. Can't he see it because he doesn't hide? Even the emperor didn't speak, so who do you think you are? Needed to be your turn to point the finger. Yang Hao spoke fluently, without any courtesy towards the Bingfeng ancestor. At this time, his eyes flashed with cold light, and there was murderous intention in his heart. He had naturally seen the viciousness in the eyes of this old witch. He knew the tricks very well. It is clear that once this kind of paranoid old witch has the intention to kill him, he can no longer explain it with reason. It is useless to give in, and it is not his style. Therefore, his choice is to fight back, which is even more arrogant and domineering. Unscrupulous. Auntie, where does this guy come from? Are you sure you can kill her? But Yang Hao is not hot-headed. On the contrary, his thinking is very clear at this time. While he was provoking the Ice Phoenix Patriarch, he was transmitting a message to the Holy Lord standing in front of him. It would be easy to kill an old sage, but if she wants to leave, I can't stop her. The Holy Lord was startled. He never thought that Yang Hao would actually have murderous intentions towards an old monster. But she is also a domineering and unparalleled person. Even Yang Hao can see the unconcealed viciousness of the Bingfeng ancestor. How could she not see the meaning? In fact, the Holy Lord had already had murderous intentions. She knew the character of Patriarch Bingfeng very well. He would retaliate for his flaws and would do whatever it took. He was a famous lunatic in the past. So she knew it very well. How troublesome it would be to have a sage who always wants to plot behind his back. She was originally thinking about how to solve this hidden danger for Yang Hao, but she didn't expect that Yang Hao seemed reckless, but in fact he also had his own plans. This little guy. The Holy Lord felt slightly relieved at this moment. She was originally worried that Yang Hao's personality was too sharp and would easily offend too many people. Now it seems that Yang Hao's thoughts were deeper than he thought. Because of this, the Holy Master listened to Yang Hao's inquiry. In order not to disturb Yang Hao's judgment, she told him the truth without any concealment. Is it okay for my aunt to give you the Jidao Emperor armament? Wei Tower has the power of suppression. But at this moment, Yang Hao's voice came again. The Holy Master was stunned. But his eyes revealed a hint of sharpness. The ultimate Emperor's weapon. The Holy Lord moved in his heart. Ken. Hearing the Holy Lord's reply, Yang Hao's eyes also lit up. From the time he got Wei Tower to now, although it hasn't been long, he already has a certain understanding of this Jidao Emperor weapon. Suppression is one of the powers of the tower. Similarly, he can also temporarily lend the Jidao Imperial weapon to others. This is why many old monsters appeared when Wei Tower, the Jidao Imperial weapon, was born. The combat power bonus brought by a Jidao Emperor weapon is really terrifying. Especially when a Jidao Emperor weapon is in the hands of a sage, under the Great Emperor, even a Quasi-Emperor. If the Wu Jidao Emperor weapon is in hand, they can only run away. The conversation between the Holy Lord and Yang Hao seems to be long, but in fact it only lasts for a moment when Yang Hao's provocative words are spoken. Presumptuous. I heard the Bingfeng ancestor roar angrily, and a breath that could almost burn the sky and destroy the world went directly towards Yang Hao. This time, the Bingfeng ancestor's aura was even more terrifying. She is used to being aloof. In her opinion, Yang Hao should bow down to her at this moment and admit his mistake. If she is willing to hand over the Jidao Emperor's weapons to her to help him keep it, maybe she will choose to forgive Yang Hao. But she didn't expect that Yang Hao would be so sharp-tongued. Li, tit for tat. Not only did he not admit his mistakes and repent, he also dared to retort. Now the Bingfeng ancestor has made it clear that he is furious and wants to kill Yang Hao on the spot. How strong is a sage, even an old sage? Don't say Yang Hao is only a prince now. Even Mingzun, who has just achieved great power, will be annihilated on the spot under this aura. Ancestor Bingfeng, past. He has a divine body, a supreme emperor, and is an absolute candidate for the future Holy Lord of our Holy Land. Yu Heng is dead, and there are thousands of descendants. Why is this necessary? The voices of old monsters spoke one after another, and they once again took action to intercept the Ice Phoenix ancestor. Court death. But at this moment, an extremely cold voice resounded. Divine light shimmered. White skirts flew. In this world, a huge jade hand suddenly appeared, pressing down directly towards the Ice Phoenix ancestor from a distance. The Holy Lord took action brazenly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I took away the villain's son. Author, the Great Onmyoji. Chapter 80. The sky-covering jade hand immediately pinched Patriarch Bingfeng instantly without any hesitation. A terrifying spiritual power tide formed, suppressing the Ice Phoenix ancestor like a whirlpool. Big hand that covers the sky. Zhang Wu. Bingfeng screamed, the sound was extremely shrill. There is no doubt that the Holy Lord took action and did not hold anything back at all. In just a moment, the breath of this old sage who had entered his twilight years suddenly withered. Such a powerful magical power, a little lesson from Zhang Yetu is enough. Bingfeng has an impulsive personality and does not really want to kill Yao Guang. Not to this point yet. Persuasion came one after another, and at the same time, someone took action to save Bingfeng. After all, Bingfeng is also an old monster in the Holy Land. When he was young, he made countless contributions to the Holy Land of eternal life. No one expected the development of the situation. Many people looked down on Bingfeng's behavior towards Yao Guang. There are also many people who never thought that the Holy Lord would take action so decisively. In full view of everyone, a battle of saints almost broke out. Snort. At this time, the Holy Master snorted coldly. Although the aura of the ancestor Bingfeng was sluggish, she was still a sage after all. The magical power she used at this moment was about to be broken. The most troublesome thing is that many neutral old monsters have set many traps blocking her attack, greatly defused her offensive. She knew very well that once the Bingfeng ancestor was allowed to break free, he would definitely leave on the spot. This would cause trouble. She wants to kill me, you have to stop her. The Holy Spirit wants to kill her, but you must also stop her. If this continues, she will survive and will not be able to kill the Holy Lord. Do you think you will hold a grudge against me? Are you secretly trying to kill me? Seniors, do you think I have the appearance of an emperor? Is it worth the investment? At this time, a very serious word suddenly sounded. This voice naturally came from Yang Hao. His words made many old monsters frown. The more people know the Bingfeng ancestor, the more they understand this afterwards, this old witch will never give up. Yao Guang, does he have the appearance of the great emperor? Many old monsters hesitated for a moment. They knew very well that although Yao Guang's words were abrupt, they did make sense. A person who has been inherited by the great emperor and possesses does this peerless monster with a divine body have the appearance of an emperor? Of course he does. Evil beast. You evil beast. I am going to kill you. While these old monsters were hesitating and thinking, suddenly they heard Bingfeng erupting into a terrifying scream. She was crying blood. The divine blood from heaven and earth was pouring down. Bingfeng's vitality was weakening crazily. Just now, she suddenly broke through the confinement of the Holy Lord, and immediately transformed into Changhong and was about to leave, preparing for the reckoning in the future. Something unexpected happened. She was trapped again. And she was almost in a desperate situation. That is, Wei Tower. The ultimate imperial weapon. This little guy is not asking for our help at all, he is just holding us back. At this time, many old monsters were suddenly startled. In their sight, they only saw a small tower filled with many mysterious auras appearing above the Holy Lord's head. This small tower washed away the miraculous blood-red divine light, cover the Ice Phoenix Patriarch who was already out of trouble. A sage in his prime used the Jideo Emperor armament to deal with a dying old sage. The combat power of the two was not on the same level at all. Ice Phoenix Patriarch Ancestor was suppressed by the blood-red divine light stirred by Wea Tower on the spot and could not escape. He was in a dilemma. And after seeing the Ice Phoenix Ancestor being suppressed by Wea Tower, the Holy Master decisively launched dozens of terrifying killing formations. Directly enveloped the Ice Phoenix Ancestor. The billions of magical runes in the killing array purged by the Holy Lord formed a ferocious and endless ancient race, surrounding the Ice Phoenix Ancestor. It was just between the lightning and flint, the Ice Phoenix old ancestor Zia was wiped out of her little vitality. Under the suppression of the Jideo Emperor's soldiers. She is about to die. I am going to kill you. Kill you. Ancestor Bingfen knew that the situation was over. She never thought that she had been in the Zaiwei star for thousands of years, but today she would fall into the hands of a holy son who had just reached the princely level. How could she not understand that if the Holy Master did not have the Jideo Emperor Bing, there is no way he can do anything to get her. If that evil beast hadn't opened his mouth to confuse other old monsters and make them hesitate, she wouldn't have been directly slaughtered today. She hates. Extremely resentful. She hates herself for being too impulsive. If she doesn't walk out today, afterwards, she could easily pick a time when the Holy Lord was away, and she could easily wipe out the evil beast Yao Guang. But now, everything was too late. The ancestor Bingfen roared incomparably, and she actually burned out her last trace. Life force, intending to break through the confinement of the Jideo Emperor's soldiers, take Yang Hao away and die together. At this time, her combat power has reached its peak in the past. Not good. Even though he was prepared for it, the Holy Master still didn't expect that the Ice Phoenix Ancestor would be so crazy. The last bit of power burst out by a dying sage is really terrifying. If this Wea Tower is hers, she can exert it by using all his power. The Holy Lord can guarantee that the Ice Phoenix Patriarch will not be able to break through her confinement even if he burns more life force. But the Jideo Imperial armament belongs to Yang Hao. She can only control Wea Tower to activate 30% of its power at most. Protect Fluctlight. Bingfen was hysterical and completely crazy. Stop her. Waves of surging divine light began to intercept Bingfen. The end has come. They don't need to hesitate at this time. The death of an old sage cannot allow a monster with the appearance of a great emperor to also die. You talk too much. Old witch. At this time, a sneer resounded again. Not only did Yang Hao not panic, he even had the leisure to sneer at the crazy Bingfen ancestor again. Fluctuate this little guy. However, when everyone saw clearly the direction from which the sound came, many people's faces twitched. As if he had expected that the other party would go crazy and kill him, Yang Hao did not know when he had appeared behind a group of old monsters. Want to kill him? Suppress all these old monsters first. Evil beast. Seeing this scene, Ice Phoenix Ancestor's shrill screams echoed through the sky again. Unfortunately, the next moment, her life force had completely dissipated. Hit the road. The voice of the Holy Lord also sounded calmly. The killing array directly pierced the body of the Ice Phoenix Ancestor on the spot. An ancient sage died. As the Ice Phoenix Ancestor died, a pouring rain of blood fell from the sky again, as if in weeping over the withering of a saint. Hee. Auntie, let's go, this blood is too dirty. Yang Hao said lightly as he watched the blood rain falling from the sky. He was worried that some of these old monsters would come out, so he took advantage of the remaining power to get ahead. Zhongwu didn't say much, and directly put on the long sleeves of her clothes that had been dyed red. Wu then left with Yang Hao. No matter who it was at this moment, they were not focusing on the fallen ancestor Bing Feng, but were looking seriously at the departing figures of the Holy Lord and Yao Guang. The Holy Lord's combat power is terrifying. Even though Patriarch Bing Feng has become old, he is still a sage. However, it was easily suppressed by the Holy Lord. Even without the help of the Jidao Imperial soldiers to imprison the Ice Phoenix Patriarch, the Ice Phoenix Patriarch is no match for the Holy Lord. As for the fluctuating light, a vicious little monster, the lawless little devil. All the old monsters were excited, looking at Yang Hao like a god. They knew very well that the culprit that ultimately led to the demise of the Bing Feng ancestor today was actually Fluctlight. Even from the beginning, this little guy might have had the intention of killing the Ice Phoenix Patriarch. However, even though they had seen through it at this moment, no one could point it out. These old guys all possess absolute rationality, and there are only a few who are as paranoid as ancestor Bing Feng. The old monster who was really interested in fluttering light was also shocked at this moment. Fluct light is difficult to deal with. Having obtained the Jidao Emperor's weapons, he naturally has the resources to save his life. What's more, there is a Holy Lord behind him who can do anything for him. If something happens to Yao Guang, Zhongwu will definitely fight to the death. Zhongwu can become the Holy Master, but it's not because she has no support. On the contrary, there are many old monsters who support Zhongwu. Naturally, they will also fully support Fluctlight. The older you get, the more you cherish your life. Today's result is probably something that even ancestor Bing Feng did not expect. If she knew from the beginning that Yang Hao had the capital to threaten her life, she wouldn't be so arrogant. After weighing the pros and cons, it is better to invest in fluctuating light than to deal with it. This is a very easy calculation. Since Mingzun has become a powerful person, the position of Chief Holy Son has been vacated. I think Yao Guang can be the Chief Saint's son. What do you think? At this moment, a powerful old monster slowly suggested. I took away the villain's son. Author, the Great Onmyoji. Chapter 81. The Holy Lord did not send Yang Hao to Yao Guang Immortal Peak, but brought her back to her Dengxian Tower. Are you going to the ancient battlefield? The Holy Lord's beautiful eyes turned as he looked at Yang Hao and said slowly. Good. The Eternal Emperor guided me to the ancient battlefield to find the opportunity he left behind. Yang Hao opened his mouth and responded to the Holy Lord. An opportunity given by the great emperor. When the Holy Lord heard this, she had also entered the tomb of the great emperor, so she naturally knew that this was true. However, the Holy Lord said a little funny, besides, there should be other things to do, right? She knew Yang Hao's temperament very well. The Yalan saint of Yin Yang Holy Land is still in the ancient battlefield. Yang Hao heard this and smiled and said, what my aunt said is. The nights are long and the dreams are many, and my foundation has been built. I can go to the ancient battlefield and solve all the disasters. The Holy Lord looked at Yang Hao, pondered for a moment and said, it's not impossible. But if you wait for me for a few more days, I will give you a treasure. It will take a few days to complete. Hearing the Holy Lord's words, Yang Hao was a little curious and said, treasure. You will know then. The Holy Master smiled brightly and said slowly, in order to avoid mistakes these days, you have been practicing here with me. This is some information about the ancient battlefield. You need to understand it yourself first. After the Holy Master finished speaking, he gave Yang Hao a jade slip and disappeared. From the beginning to the end, the two of them had a tacit understanding and did not mention the matter of killing the old sage, Patriarch Bing Feng. It was as if these things are not important at all. I can still wait a few days. Just in time, I can digest this harvest and study the information about the ancient battlefield given by Wei Tower and my aunt. From building the foundation and leaving seclusion to now, he has once again gained a lot he had no time before, but now Yang Hao has free time in the Holy Master's Ascension Tower and begins to practice. The first thing Yang Hao did when he started practicing, just took a look at his own panel. Yang Hao. Realm. Array Realm First Level. Talent. Supreme Immortal Bone, plus. Time Deo Pattern, plus. Reincarnation Deo Embryo Divine Body, plus. Master the Skill. Chaos Immortal Sutra, plus. Supreme Killing Sword. Master Magical Powers. 9 Heavens and 10 Earths, the Great Destruction Sword Intent, the Divine Sword of Time, and the Great Spiritual Energy Technique. Devouring Heaven and Earth, plus. Number of Runes, 0, plus. Current points, 2.365 billion. Point income record. To avoid excessive word count, the progress bar points have been omitted. The panel at this moment has undergone slight changes compared to before. Supreme magical powers such as the Great Spiritual Energy Technique have been directly filled up and reached the top level, and no more points can be added. As for the basic abilities of the Supreme Immortal Bone, Time Deo Pattern, etc., they all achieved breakthroughs after the Great Emperor taught the Dharma. Now that the foundation has been built, talents such as Supreme Immortal Bone, Divine Body, etc. If you want to add points, you need to spend more than 10 billion points to reach the upper limit and continue to advance. On the contrary, the skills I originally practiced, such as the Supreme Killing Sword, were filled up by me before. I am not in a hurry to add points to upgrade my magical powers now. But this time after I stepped into the formation realm, the biggest change was that there was an extra rune number. Yang Hao looked at his panel and began to think about how to add points. He was quickly attracted by the new projects that appeared on the panel. It should be the number of runes required for the array realm. But adding 1 point would actually require 100 million points. I have 2.3 billion points now, but I can add 23 more points. Also a bit too expensive. Yang Hao was a little reluctant to give up. With 2.3 billion points, he could upgrade to the 23 supreme magical powers. But after thinking about it, Yang Hao decided to try the new project. Add a bit. With the thought in his mind, 100 million points disappeared instantly. But then there was a change. He immediately felt that as the points were added, the sea of spiritual energy in his body began to change continuously. 1, 2, 3. Wisps of spiritual power in the sea of spiritual energy began to evolve instantly, becoming spiritual energy runes one after another. 3,600 spiritual energy runes. Yang Hao sensed the changes in his body, and his eyes flashed. Just after he finished adding points, there were 3,600 more spiritual energy runes in his body. At the same time, he also saw his on the panel, the column with the number of runes has also changed from 0 to 3,600 aura runes. Call. According to the Emperor's teachings, the formation state is the process of visualizing all things and transforming them into runes. And this is divided into 2 steps. First, you need to turn the spiritual power in your body into aura runes, and then through visualization, attach all things to the blank aura runes, and finally become all thing runes that can form a killing array. The most time-consuming part of this is to continuously transform spiritual power into spiritual energy runes, and you must maintain a high degree of concentration in practice. What's even more troublesome is that if the visualization fails when mapping all things to the aura runes, the result will be the collapse of the aura runes. It is precisely because of this that after achieving the foundation, the speed of practice will be greatly reduced. Many people will stay at the prince level and king level for hundreds or even thousands of years. Eventually, their longevity will be exhausted, and many people will die. My spiritual power is very pure, but because of this, if I want to turn my spiritual power into spiritual energy runes, it will take half an hour for 1 step, and 5 hours for 10 steps. Now, by adding points, I can generate 3,600 aura runes at one time. In this way, it can save me a lot of time to visualize and imprint. Yang Hao is in a good mood. The new items that appear on the panel will greatly shorten his training time in the formation realm. Add a bit. Add a bit. Yang Hao added points again, this time he spent 1 billion points in one go. Kindness. Every time you add points, the aura runes transformed are random. The first time I transformed, I generated 3,600 aura runes, the second time, I generated 10,000, and the third time, I generated 2,100. Yang Hao gradually understood that when adding points to the number of runes, the number generated turned out to be completely random. Fortunately, Yang Hao gradually figured out the trick, and he had an idea. Great luck! He directly and decisively upgraded a special magical power that increased his luck to the supreme magical power level, and added more points as he used it. 20,000. 25,000. 18,000. Under the constant stream of magical power of great luck, Yang Hao found that he could convert a large number of spiritual runes every time he added points. At the same time, he also concluded the approximate upper limit for adding 1 point, which is around 20,000 spiritual power runes. In this way, Yang Hao spent a total of 2.2 billion points to add points. In an instant, the spiritual runes in his body had a total of 400,000 spiritual runes. This is a terrifying number. You know, the Supreme Foundation can only hold 1 million spiritual powers, and one spiritual power may not necessarily be able to successfully transform a spiritual power rune. This means that in just this moment, Yang Hao instantly obtained the number of spiritual runes that a heaven-defying prince would have spent many years converting almost all his spiritual power. Of course, so many spiritual power runes are just a drop in the bucket for Yang Hao's sea of spiritual energy that transcends the Supreme Foundation. If he wanted to completely convert all the spiritual energy in Yang Hao's body into spiritual runes, if he only relied on his own cultivation, I don't know how much time it would take. Boom! When Yang Hao was in a very good mood, there was a sudden vibration in his body, and more spiritual energy began to flow. The sea of spiritual energy that had reached its peak began to open up again. In the blink of an eye, the spiritual energy in Yang Hao's body reached as much as more than 11 million. Is this a breakthrough? Yang Hao didn't expect it. He didn't expect that he just transformed a few spiritual runes and then directly broke through the formation realm and entered the second heaven. An unexpected surprise. Yang Hao was a little surprised. Feeling the changes in his body, he was a little eager to try it. Try to create the runes of all things. He concentrated his mind and put his mind into the Wei Tower in his body. In the Wei Tower, in addition to the soul of the great emperor sitting cross-legged and without any life, there are also ancient runes floating in the Wei Tower. In each of these ancient runes, there are all living things that were sealed when the eternal emperor walked in the starry sky in the past. Yang Hao casually projected his mind on any of the ancient runes. Suddenly, in front of his eyes, a head covered the giant ape that blocks out the sun, with black flames burning all over its body, walks in the silent void of the universe. A branch of the Hongmeng Great Ape clan, the Hongmeng Hell Ape. When Yang Hao visualized this ancient rune, he naturally knew all the information about this Hongmeng Hell Ape. There is no doubt that the emperor deliberately left it there. Visualize. Yang Hao started to visualize without hesitation. All his mind was focused on this powerful giant ape walking in the void of the universe. Soon, he was able to sense an identical powerful giant ape in his sea of spiritual energy. The ape walked. The large number of spiritual power runes in Yang Hao's body were like beasts that smelled the fishy smell, and they rushed towards the Hongmeng Hell Ape crazily. However, the large number of spiritual power runes, at the moment they touched the Hongmeng Hell Ape, they all shattered. This Hongmeng Hell Ape was too terrifying. The spiritual runes in Yang Hao's sea of spiritual energy could not be carried at all.